Welcome to the Marquis Masters Podcast. I'm Ryan Estes. Most people think the law is cold, procedural, and emotionless. Paperwork, courtrooms, black and white rules. But what happens when the law collides with the messiest parts of human life? Divorce, power, vulnerability, identity, and justice on someone's worst day? Well, today's guest lives right at that intersection. Alexandria Crouthamel is an attorney, founder of an all-woman law firm, a media creator, and the host of Real Legal Stories with Ollie. She's built a fast-growing legal practice while mastering modern distribution through TikTok, podcasting, and a personal brand. And she's proving that empathy, excellence, and business growth don't have to be trade-offs. In this conversation, we talk about how she's built her firm from word of mouth and excellence, how media directly impacts client acquisition and revenue, what people get completely wrong about the legal system, and what working through thousands of divorces teaches you about human nature, relationships, and resilience. This episode is for founders, creators, professionals, and anyone curious about how law, media, and humanity actually collide in the real world. For more stories like this, more leaders worth knowing, and more context behind the conversations, head to marquiswhoswho.com. That's marquiswhoswho.com, where remarkable people stop being names and start becoming stories. And if this episode made you think, laugh, or rethink something you believed, leave a review so the algorithm know you've got good taste. And now for my conversation with Alexandria. Allie, thank you so much for joining us on the Marquis Masters Podcast series. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me today. I look forward to it.
You bet. I'm really excited to learn all about your legal practice. You have an unbelievable business and company. But before we do that, I really want to touch base on probably the most important matter, which is like, how do I create a hit TikTok?
So actually, I did not intend to become a micro influencer on TikTok. What happened was my cousin got a traffic ticket. She called me and she goes, Allie, I got a speeding ticket. Can you represent me? I'm like, are you serious? So I'm like, fine. So she's big into TikTok. She owns a health food company, so she does a lot of online stuff. So she starts TikToking me at court. And if you actually watch the video, it's like, I'm like, are you TikToking me at court? And she starts TikToking me and she posts it and it like went viral. So she's like, hey, you should really do something about this. Like, you already have a podcast. And most people know who you are around the Lehigh Valley. You should do it. So I started doing it. And people love it. It's not free legal advice because I can't, really give legal advice until I know the case, but it's general facts about the law. People like it. I cover high profile cases like, P. Diddy, Karen Reed, things like that. So, that's how it started.
Incredible. And you're very natural. You're very good. Everybody should definitely check it out. It's Legally at Law, legally with 2 L's. And I caught that. It's brilliant. And the podcast too, I want to mention that, which is Real Legal Stories with Allie. And talk about the podcast a little bit. What do you review in the podcast? How's it different?
Yeah. So the podcast is obviously a longer format than the TikToks, but I have clients on there, previous and past clients with pretty significant cases. I'm talking about like wrongful child removal from their parents. I'm talking about a 12-year-old who was beat, unalived, and starved by her own parents. I'm talking about dads who gained custody. I'm talking about heavy stuff, right? So, but the real world experiences with clients. And then I do take some high profile cases. I have one coming up with a teenager who was missing for 10 years. So a lot of cool, interesting stuff on there.
Yeah, especially coming from kind of a legal background. I want to talk more about the media, but let's give an introduction to kind of your career and your business. So give us kind of high level what your firm specializes in.
Yeah, so my firm specializes in family, which most people don't know what that is. It's divorce, custody, protection from abuse, and CPS matters. In addition, we do criminal defense. So those are people who have been accused of committing a crime. We are expanding in the very near future to pick up some personal injury and medical malpractice cases as well.
Incredible. And what was the origin story of the law firm?
Sure. So I graduated law. I started working at a workers' compensation law firm for about 3 months. COVID hit and I was like, yeah, this ain't for me. It's like sitting at a desk, paper pushing. And if you haven't figured this out by now, I can't sit still to save my life. So I'm like, this isn't going to work. So I quit. I opened up a law firm in Carbon County where I no longer practice with a partner. But our practice area sort of took us offshore in about 2 years. She was more Carbon County doing different types of law. I was coming down to the Lehigh Valley. It was too far basically for me to drive. So I was like, I can't do this. I got to open my own. So in February of 2022, I mean, I did have my own, but in February 2022, I separated from my partner, opened up what you know now as Crouthamel Law Offices. It's an all-female run law firm. It started off with one paralegal and one attorney, which would have been me. And now it is substantially grown and it is still growing. And that's sort of what we do.
Incredible. Balancing the actual legal practice and clients, but also being an entrepreneur and a founder of a company. How do you balance the two?
Yeah, so I always say I have two full-time jobs. One is being a lawyer, two is being a business owner. And they often intersect and they often take a lot of work in different, categories. So it's very difficult. I will admit that. Sometimes I say I wish I could just be the lawyer and not the business owner, but it's hard because everything falls back on me, right? So a grumpy client, a staff issue, payroll, accounting, taxes, all the things, right, are also something I have to deal with. And then I've got to try cases, right? So a lot of law firm owners, once they've taken off to the way I have, sort of step back from being a lawyer. Maybe they have 5, 10, 20 cases, and then they do most of the HR business side. I refuse to do that. I won't do it. So I have the most cases in my office, plus I run it. It can be difficult, but that's who I am. I like to get it done. So.
Yeah, and you seem to be very successful at client acquisition. In the beginning, how did you first find your first handful of clients?
Yeah, so when I left my partner, I got a job as a part-time public defender in Northampton County, just because I wanted criminal defense and I really didn't know how I would get a book of clients. But it was part-time, so it allowed me to have a private practice. And a lot of my clients from the public defender's office would say, hey, listen, you did such a great job on my criminal case, or, oh my God, I'm charged with a crime. I'm never going to see my kid again. Can you help me with custody? Can you help me on divorce? What about this PFA that's been filed? What do I do about that? I'm like, listen, you're going to have to retain through my private office because as a public defender, I can only represent you in your criminal matter. So they started flooding my office, right, with collateral matters. And then sort of that's how it took off. And then one night I, woke up and had a whole book of clients.
Incredible. So word of mouth, and I mean, probably just excellence.
Yeah, I think because most people have this stigma like, hey, public defenders, as they would call them, public pretenders, right, are, they do their job and they leave, right? So it's represent you, do some damage control and go. But I have this motto, if you will. It's I don't do anything half-assed, excuse my language. But if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. So when I did a public defender, it's like I'm representing a private client, right? So I'm doing the extra work. I'm pulling that, which most public defenders will not do. So they see that and they're like, well, you could help me with custody. You could help me on this. You could help me on that. So that's sort of how it spiraled.
Incredible. Well, and maybe 3 part-time jobs because you're very active in media with the podcast, with the social channels. How have those kind of impacted your business and bottom line?
Yeah, so those are new. That's like a 2025 thing, right? So before this, I didn't really do much media. I did media like when I would have a case and the news would be outside the courthouse, right? I would do that kind of media. But like this sort of stuff and TikTok and Facebook was sort of my goal for 2025. And it's, I am monetized on those accounts. I make, a whopping maybe $100 a month, right? So not that much. But a lot of people have reached out and said, hey, could I schedule a concert or could I talk to somebody? Or, hey, this really helped me in my case. So I do find, that it's helping people. I do get messages from people all over the continental United States, which I can't advise on because I'm not barred in every state, but, I can help them and say, hey, you should call this person or point them in the right direction. So I really think that it is taking the world by storm, social media.
Your resume tells people what you do, but it doesn't tell them who you are. That's where Marquis Who's Who comes in. For over a century, Marquis has profiled the world's most accomplished professionals, not just their titles or awards, but the human stories that make them exceptional. Every Marquis listee has a unique journey. The late nights, the breakthroughs, the moments of doubt that led to achievement. It's more than a list of credentials. This is your narrative professionally curated, your personal brand defined and reinforced, and your legacy historically preserved. If you've spent years mastering your craft, this is your chance to put it on record for validation, credibility, and legacy from an industry-recognized authority. Join the thousands of leaders recognized in Marquis Who's Who. To find out more about becoming an honored Marquis Who's Who listee and inspire the next generation with your story, visit marquiswho'swho.com. Yeah, 100%. And you do it so well and effortlessly. Besides customer acquisition and client acquisition, are there any other benefits of kind of developing your personal brand over the last year?
Yeah, for me, like it's an outlet for me because sometimes I say stuff on TikTok that I really want to say in court, but I can't, right? Because well, there's a variety of reasons for that. But it's letting people know their rights. Like, you're going into a custody conference, you should know you don't have to settle there, right? And most people, if you can't afford a lawyer, they don't know that. How are they going to know that? So I like to explain to the person who is not an expertise in the law how, okay, just because you don't have a lawyer doesn't mean they don't have to follow the law. And this is what you should do, or this is what you should consider. So I think it's just general education.
Yeah. Incredible. And, I want to talk about kind of like as you kind of got into law. When doing research on you, I noticed that you studied forensic science originally and then transferred to law. What facilitated the shift?
Yeah, so when I was in college at Alexandria University, my major was forensic science and my minor was in criminal justice. I did an internship at the Berks County District Attorney's Office in the crime lab unit, where I did crash reconstruction, computer analysis, and fingerprinting. I found myself in a lab for 8 hours a day with no human interaction. Okay, I'm testing stuff, I'm putting pieces together, I'm dumping a phone, which I loved that part. What I did not love is that I'm like staring at walls, right? Like I had nobody to talk to, I had nobody to bounce ideas off. And I'm like, I can't do this for 40 hours a week. Like there's no way. So I was like, I gotta do something. I gotta do something. So I ended up going to court at a subsequent internship at the local prison where I interned there for credits. And that was the first time I was ever been in a courtroom. So I am blessed that my parents were never divorced. I never had any juvenile matters, right? So I would never have a need to go to the courthouse as a child. And so that was the first time I was ever in court, ever. And I think I went there once for my parents to get me a passport. And so I went there and I was like, wow, I really like this. So then I sat with a judge who let me just observe and, sort of get the lay of the land. And then I took my LSAT and got into law school.
Incredible. With kind of your expertise in media and particularly just kind of the climate of media right now, true crime is probably the biggest podcast category that exists. Are you seeing this as kind of potential career trajectory into entertainment?
Yeah, so a lot of people ask me that. I don't know if it's because of the way I talk or what, but Court TV has asked me, to come on weekly. They really like my input. I've been on Nancy Grace. I've been on probably every major media news outlet known to man. I think I would be more inclined to do more media. I would be happy to. I can't leave where I came from. I'm very much of I own this place and I'll never leave it. But not that I wouldn't do more media, if that makes sense.
Percent. What are some maybe favorite true crime TV shows, podcasts? What do you like to consume media wise?
Yeah, so I rarely watch true crime when I get home, right? I also have a small family and a small farm, so watching TV usually isn't in my playbook. But when it is, the last thing I want to hear about is the law. I want to watch trash reality TV, right? Because I get too into it, right? So, like, my husband has me watching this, I guess, this viral Netflix, The Beast in Me right now, right? And it's all about the death of this girl and this whole thing. And I'm like, I can't watch this because I'm analyzing it from a lawyer perspective. I can't shut it off. So I try not to watch. I try to watch like rom-coms or like a girly thing. But I do follow like real life true crime cases, like
Yeah.
like I said, P. Diddy, Karen Reed, all of those. And I actually reported from both of those courthouses.
So if we're watching an episode of Law and Order, you're going to be yelling at the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. And your firm is positioned as an all-woman practice. What kind of superpowers do you think you have being all women?
Yeah, so in the law, there is a stigma that I have personally experienced, and I think every single person in my law firm would back me up on this. But when you think of a lawyer, you're not thinking of me, right? What are you thinking of? A older white gentleman, right? Because that's what the media and the movies and the typical person is of a lawyer, right? So I have been in courtrooms where I am the only female, and there's about 100 lawyers in there, right? So I am very much that women are equal to men. I am very much that men are equal to women, right? So I feel strongly that women can be lawyers, women can be police officers, women can be anything that men can be. But the stigma is right. So I've had personal experience where I'm going to what we call an out of county courthouse. So a courthouse I do not practice in regularly. And I'll go there and I show up in my suit and I have my Fendi bag, my briefcase with my file, and I show up and I check in with the person. And I say, "Hey, I'm here for XVX," and they go, "Oh, are you the stenographer? Oh, are you the defendant?" No, I'm the lawyer. Okay. And so that's sort of what I'm like, oh no, this isn't gonna work for me. So I actually, fun fact, just hired a male for the first time ever, starting in the new year. But the it will be always run by a female, which is who you're looking at right now.
Great. It's got to be irritating. I mean, I know I'd be irritated by that. Do you feel like it's an advantage in some cases?
Then I'm a female.
Yeah.
Um, no, not the fact that I'm a female. I think what's an advantage is that
Mm.
I don't shut up. Right. So most females, I would think, like to talk. And I am very aggressive, probably sometimes too aggressive. And that's what gets me results. I don't know that it's necessarily that I'm a female. It's just that I am inherently, and I think females like to argue, but that can be debatable. I don't really take any stuff, if you will.
Yeah. I get it. My daughter's a freshman in college. She's going to Mizzou. If she was to want to go into law, what would you advise her? What would your advice be?
So, well, there's a lot, but the first thing I would advise her is it doesn't matter what major you take in college, right? Like no one cares. Unless you're going to go to business, like do business contracting, merger acquisitions, you should know about businesses, right? Because that's like something you can't learn through a textbook, right? So that I would suggest if you're going to go to business or tax law, you take some kind of major that revolves around that. Otherwise, nobody cares, right? No one cares. And then when you go to law school, right, you've got to there's things I can't teach, right? So I often teach new attorneys, I often teach paralegals, I often teach at schools, and things I cannot teach. Number one, common sense. I cannot teach you that. You better have it if you're going to be a lawyer. And number two, how to think on your feet. I can't teach you that either, right? So I could teach you the law, I could teach you the pleading, I could teach you what to do, but you got to think on your feet, because you know how many times I appear for court and something goes haywire. It's every day. It's every day. A witness doesn't show up, a witness doesn't say what I think they're going to say, the judge moves the hearing, they do a motion in limine 2 minutes before the hearing starts, right? So it's constantly shifting, and if you can't think with immediate thinking, you shouldn't be a lawyer.
Talk a little bit more about common sense. Is that kind of like an understanding of human nature? Is that kind of like an innate understanding of the spirit of the law? What does that mean to you?
So common sense, right? So I represent criminal defendants, right? I will tell you probably 75% of them lie to my face. Not a good idea, but they do. Okay. When the evidence shows something, but the client is saying something else, right? You've got to say, okay, listen, I know some of this may not be true from the evidence. Some of this may not be true from my client. You've got to use the puzzle in your head to figure out where the pieces fit, right? But most lawyers, some lawyers, are just, oh, my client said this, so this must be what happens. Or, oh, the evidence shows this, so this, no, 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 right? There's truth in everything. It's just, what is it, right? So when I say common sense, I mean that sort of common sense. Or, when somebody calls and says, Oh my God, dad's late 3 minutes for the pickup. Can I file a motion? Okay, let's use our common sense. 3 minutes? You're going to spend $3,000 for 3 minutes, right? Like these are the things people don't think about because the cases are so emotional.
Yeah. What has um, your career taught you about human nature in general?
A lot of people are nuts. No. I do family law. So like people don't understand like the stuff I see, like no one calls this office happy. You're getting a divorce, your kids are getting taken away from you. You have a CPS, you have a protection from abuse or you're charged with a crime. Right? You ain't calling here unless it's an adoption unless you're happy. So, you know, the emotion that goes with that type of law, right, is
Mhm.
extremely intense and you have to understand that human nature is to be upset when your husband files a divorce or when you're charged with a crime or whatever, right? So a lot of my job is taking the matter from here and bringing it down here and explaining to the client, like, this isn't as bad as it seems, right? It may be bad, but this is how we can fix it. This is how we can help you, right? And human nature to have sympathy and empathy and understand and realize, listen, people aren't perfect, including police officers or your husband or the court system. But also, these are the laws that we have to follow. So it's a lot of like, I feel like sometimes I say to my clients, I'm not your therapist. Like, I can't, like, I understand you're upset, but like, my job is to guide you through the law, the legal system. If you're this upset, you need to go talk to a therapist, right? But a lot of those things intersect, right? So if a kid makes an allegation against a parent, right? So that may be through the therapist, but that's going to affect it legally. I hope I'm making sense with that.
100%.
Okay.
I mean, it seems unbelievably emotionally heavy. I mean, you're dealing with people's worst days of their life. Like when you're hanging up the hat and going back to the farm, like how do you stay grounded?
Yeah, so I suck at that, just so y'all know. I am horrible. So I lay in bed at night thinking about my clients. I can't let it go. So I have a new daughter. She's not that new anymore, I guess, 15 months old. And so that's sort of now become my outlet, right? Because now I'm like, all right, I got to be here for my kid. I got to give her bath, dinner, bed, we got to play, do all the things, right? So I really enjoy spending time with her, not thinking about this place sometimes. I also have multitude of animals because that's my outlet, right? So animals can't talk back to me, right? So we kind of hang out and do those types of things. I also, travel a lot. My parents live in North Carolina, so we see them pretty frequently. um we're just big on like family time. I don't have a lot of free time, so between TikTok, media, a law firm, clients, it's very limited. And when I do have free time, I usually am spending it with my daughter.
Yeah. Well, in 15 months, congrats. That's like it's a little joy dispensary right there.
Yeah.
That's a big help. Tell me about the animals.
Yeah, so my husband thinks I'm crazy, but I when I met my husband, I had 3 dogs and he had 1 dog. So we auto started with 4. And then we rescued 4 after that. So we had 8 dogs. 2 have since departed this life. So now we have 6. We also have a hairless cat. We have 12 reptiles. We have goats. We have a hamster. We have a fish tank. We have all the things.
Incredible. Any particular breed of dog that you guys focus on?
Yeah, we're a bully breed family. So we have a pit bull, an English bulldog, 3 French bulldogs, and a Pomeranian, which does not fit in that category. But my client had a litter and insisted I take one. So I ended up with
What
Pomeranian.
kind of reptiles?
Oh, chameleons, crested geckos, tree frogs, turtles, your Mathises, bearded dragon, all the things.
Incredible. What's the monthly expense on pet food?
So all my dogs are on prescription pet food because of the licking, like the allergies. The bulldogs, they have like a lot of paw allergies. So I think it's $200 a bag, which we get every week. So just on dog food, probably 800.
Incredible. I love it. That sounds so fun. And you must have some property out there?
Yeah, so we have some property. We will be moving in the near future just because it's about 45 minutes from the office. And with her, 45 minutes before I didn't care about, but now that's like 45 minutes I'm losing with my kid, each way. So we're going to try and move closer to the office, before she like would start school.
Yeah. Cool. Kind of going back to like relationships with clients and in the courtroom, you are very in a unique position of dealing with massive, big emotions and tough processes. Oftentimes, I'm sure it's because they're overwhelmed with the whole process. They feel powerless. How do you help people kind of step back into their agency and then maintain composure when they're kind of facing some of these challenges?
Yeah, so like I said, so I sort of give them the analysis like, okay, ma'am or sir, I've done about 5,000 divorces. This is the steps. These are what's the options. It's not as bad as it seems. I understand you may be in love with him or whatever, but the paperwork, the legality of it is not that hard, right? Like you're in good hands. We know what to do. I've done this so many times. I could do it in my sleep, right? Like you're fine. Um, Criminal matters are different, right? Because most of the facts of the case are different. Like, you may have 5 clients charged with theft, but it may be one's a theft of a car, one's a theft of, a TV from Walmart, right? So different. And you have to also remember that there's a huge mental health crisis in the United States of America. And a lot of what I would call criminal clients from us, which is basically people charged with crimes, have mental health issues, because that's just the nature of it. Not all of them, but some of them. So you have to manage their expectations as well. So we pretty much tell them like, listen, it's our job to talk. If you're talk, you answer in the most appropriate form. If you don't know how, you look at me. I will instruct you. And also like doing an outburst in court does nobody any good, right? Like you're not going to get any farther. The judge isn't going to like it. Let me have the outburst, right? Because I'm not going to get in trouble. So just let me do it. So it's a lot of gaining of their trust, right? Like, hey, you're handling my X matter. I'm going to need you to stick up for me, right? So that's sort of how we do it, but also you have to give them the hard reality, which is, hey, listen, this is the way this is going to go, whether you like it or not. And to hear that sometimes, but some clients appreciate it. Some are like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. But that's the truth. If I know how it's going to go, I'm going to tell you, it's going to go this way. You hate it, but sorry, this is the way it's going to go. Particularly on
Yeah.
like people who have to pay alimony or have substantial criminal records that are going to face jail time. But yeah.
How it goes. 5,000 divorces. What kind of insights do you bring into your own marriage, kind of working with that many unsuccessful marriages?
Yeah, so I told my husband when he married me, you know what you signed up for? And I remind him of that quite often, but no. So highly suggest anybody that's getting married should get a prenup because you wouldn't be hiring me and spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to fight over your stuff if you had a prenup. But most people don't do that because they're too love struck. So in my own marriage, you best believe I have a prenup. An 80-page comprehensive down to my forks in my kitchen drawer prenup. But I again come from a significant different professional background. But other than that, like, you know, I think people in this day and age, right? We see a lot of adultery or cheating, whatever word you want to use. Like, I see that stuff every day of the week, every hour of the day. And it's like, why do you do like it racks my brain? Like, I can't understand. And I see also the pain and the trauma from the other side, right? So I take that home with me. It's like, this is the father of my child. Obviously, he's my husband. I love him very much. But why would you put somebody through this pain? Just walk out the door, bro. Just leave. Right. So that's sort of how I take that. Like, but I am, when it comes to my daughter, right? She's not in daycare. She'll never be in daycare. I can't do it. Would never sleep at night putting my kid in daycare, right? So because I mean, I've done shaken baby cases. I've done a slew of issues with daycares, right? So I can't do it. I told my husband, you want a kid? We ain't doing daycare. That's what we're doing. We're starting. And he's like, okay, right? So like, I have to remember that, like, because I'm very anal, right? Like, I won't put certain things in writing. I won't, I won't say certain things. My husband's like, what are you talking about? But I can't help but think this is going to be used in court one day.
Yeah. Interesting. So you obviously you're an attorney, but when I read your bio, it talks a lot about you fight for vulnerable people, and you're working with folks that are having a tough go at it. But it seems like there's still a lot of hope and optimism about like what people are capable of, what your future looks like. How do you kind of stay enthusiastic and optimistic?
Because I believe that most people are inherently good, and I believe in the system. The system,
Mm.
I think, is broken to an extent, but it was created not, well, it depends what system we're talking about, but it's created to not, like the criminal system is created to punish, but everyone assumes like, you do this crime or you're charged with a crime, you're automatically guilty, right? Like if the cops arrested you because you did X, Y, and Z, it is an auto guilty, right? And I have seen so many cops. I've gotten so many cases dismissed because they don't follow the system, right? If they followed what they were supposed to do, that my client would be charged. But these technicalities you hear people talk about, that is why the system is built the system it is, because the Constitution protects your right, and I believe in the Constitution. So I'm very much inherently believe in our system, believe in the Constitution, and I'm very passionate about helping people. I almost became a doctor, to be honest. But I'm not good with blood and guts, so I decided not to do it. But sometimes I say to myself, wow, I could have just clocked in and clocked out. But no. But I always had this desire to help people, right? Like that is ingrained in me. I started working at the age of 13 years old at my family's own pharmacy, right? Like I am not one to sit on my butt. It's sort of how I was raised, but also the results, right? So when you do something good, you feel a reward, a sense of reward, and you feel like you're helping somebody. And that's why I do this job, right? I've gotten people released out of prison after them serving 20 years on an acquittal. I mean, I've gotten kids reunited with their parents they haven't seen in 7 years, right? That feeling of seeing that, you can't describe that, right? And it's not that I help them, it's the joy on your client's face for getting their freedom back or their kid back. I mean, those are things that money can't buy, right? So that's why I do this job. I forget the question you asked me. I just went on a tangent, but
No, it's amazing. What components of the system do you feel like are broken?
well, particularly the criminal system. So in some counties, the system is takes significantly longer than it should. Um, People will arrest people with what I would believe is not enough evidence. In addition, the family court system, there's so many broken parts of it, but you know, I could give a lot of examples, but like for example, custody court. We often see the parents have a court order that says mom gets 50% of the time, dad gets 50% of the time. Let's go week on, week off. 1 week with mom, 1 week with dad, 1 week with mom, 1 week with dad. Okay, seems pretty easy to you and me, right? Okay. Then mom just decides, she wakes up and says, you know what? I'm not sending you to dad. You can stay here, right? Well, now she's violated a court order. So what does the person have to do? Well, they don't have to retain an attorney, but most of them do. They retain an attorney. You got to do an emergency petition. You got to draft up a whole thing. You can call the police to say, hey, can you go over there and make sure they're okay? But the police will not remove the kids from mom to give to dad because they say it's a civil custody matter. Even though there's a court order signed by a judge that says, hey, this is dad's week. So what's the punishment, right? You might as well do it. It's not as good as the ink as the paper is written on. So that's the kind of stuff that irritates me. It's like, okay, if there's no punishment for doing it, people are going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Rule of law not being enforced. Another thing I wanted to ask you about too, all of us, laymen have watched 1,000 hours of forensic files, 2,000 hours of Law and Order. We think we're experts. Maybe this is some of your friends too. What's something the public gets completely wrong about how the legal system actually works?
I think people think I'm DoorDash, or I can open the gates to the prison, and I work at, instant, on demand Amazon Prime speed, right? So
Yeah.
this world is used to instant gratification, particularly in the past maybe 5 to 10 years, right? So you want lunch, Ryan, you're going to order right on your phone, right? When we're done this, that's exactly what I'm going to do, right? Or you want something from Amazon, you can't find at Walmart, what are you going to do? Type it in, 2 day shipping right to your house. None, 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 not here, right? So like, we have to draft paperwork. We have to print the paperwork. We have to file the paperwork. We have to schedule a court hearing, right? So it's not on demand. Now, there's some things that can be on demand. For example, an emergency protection from abuse order, right? The court's not going to make you wait. But like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. What do you want me to do? Call the judge on speed dial? I mean,
Yeah.
that's what people think. Like, I can do something immediate. Sometimes I can. Sometimes I cannot, right? And that's sort of the expectation that we actually, I'll be honest, our firm has a very hard time with that, right? So we are very, very busy, okay? We have somebody answering, 4 people answering the phones, 8:30 to 4:30 from a boutique law firm that's unheard of. But they think like they can just call or show up here, and I'm just sitting here with my thumb up my rear, or just I'm waiting for so and so to come in, right? It That's not how the law works. Like, the public thinks, oh, you arrest somebody and 2 weeks later they're in trial. No, 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 no. You mean like 2 years later, okay? Or you want to get divorced, it's gonna happen tomorrow. No, 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 no. Right? That's what the misconception is, and we have a hard time with that. Trying to get clients to understand that we're in the Stone Ages when we file paperwork, right? Like, there's no online stuff. It's like literally print the paperwork.
Yeah, maybe it is the Law and Order effect. You have the crime, commercial break, the court case, commercial break, sentencing. It should be quick, right?
Yeah, no, not here. That's not how it works.
Yeah. Cool. We talked a little bit about the challenges of expectations, being, an old white guy, and you talked a little bit about the challenges and benefits of being a woman and having an all female firm. What about being young? I mean, you're very young. How has that been interpreted, and how have you kind of dealt with those expectations of just being a young attorney?
Yeah, so that's a that's a pretty significant battle that I faced, right? So my reputation speaks for itself. My court wins speak for themselves. But I didn't always have 500 active clients in a massive law firm, right? It was me and one paralegal who's still my paralegal. Um, when I show up, sometimes clients will call right on the fly, like, hey, I've got court tomorrow. It's a protection from abuse matter. Can you represent me? And if I get on the phone and decide, that it's a good fit, I'm usually already there, right? Because I already do them. I'm like, hey, I could just add you on, no problem. So I don't meet the client, right? I show up, right? I just show up and I'm like, hey, I'm Allie. Nice to meet you. And they look at me and they're like, you're not my lawyer. No, yes, I am. Right. So they don't, a lot of people, when they ask for consults, how long have I been doing it? Right. There are lawyers with substantial more experience than me. I'm not perfect, right? I haven't tried every single case, commercial litigation, all that stuff. I've tried every single type of family law case, but people, I used to get it more, I think, but now, like, because of who I am and sort of, my media presence, and I don't get it as much.
Yeah. Amazing. It's that time of the podcast where we enter the lightning round. Are you ready?
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
All right. If you could meet one person, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg, because I dissent. Need I say more? That's me. That is the definition of me. I dissent.
Sent. Love it. If you could start your career over again, would you have made any other different choices?
Yes, I would have started my law firm immediately after law school and not went somewhere else.
Really?
Yes.
Why so?
Because I'll be honest with you and the listeners, I don't like to listen to other people tell me what to do. I'm pretty good. I don't want to float my own boat. That's not who I am as a person, but I'm pretty good at what I do. And I know how to manage people, and I know how to grow a law practice. Clearly I've done it. I wouldn't have known that then, right? I wouldn't have, I sort of went into this blind. Like, I'm the only lawyer in my family. My parents aren't lawyers. My grandparents aren't lawyers. My aunts, my uncles, nobody is a lawyer. Okay. So like when I tell them I'm starting my own practice, they're like, say what? Like, what are you talking about? So my uncle is a doctor, but he has his own medical studio, and my aunt was a pharmacist. They had their own pharmacy. So the business is not unheard of, but the lawyer thing is unheard of, right? But I think it's inherent in me. I think I've had 2 staff members in 6 years leave me. The turnover is extremely low at my office, because I feel like I do with my clients, I resonate with my staff, right? Like, you have a kid, your kid is sick, please take off and go get them, right? Like, I don't require my staff to be at my beck and call. Like, I don't require them to, require them to work, but like, we have lives. There's emergencies that are outside this law firm in your personal life. You've got to deal with that stuff. If you're not a happy person, you can't work good for me, right? You've got to take care of you. So, I send my staff home early. I'll tell them they can have a PTO day, right? Like I do a lot of stuff for them because they do a lot of stuff for me.
Incredible. As an attorney and as a mother, as a wife, what are some important lessons you've learned along the way?
My biggest lesson, and which I tell my daughter every single day, even though she has no idea what I'm saying, is you need to stand up for yourself, right? So the system in the world currently, in the current crisis that we're having for a multitude of reasons, is built to break you. We have a mental health crisis. We have a turmoil among politicians. We have a somewhat broken judicial system, and people will bulldoze you, your employer, your parents, your boss, your ex-wife, I've seen it time and time again. And so many people are scared to say, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right. This is not right in my gut. And I want people to verbalize it. You can disagree with somebody respectfully. And I have gone on a multitude of podcasts. I've debated multiple people, lawyers, politicians, co-counsels, judges, that I totally disagree with, but I do it respectfully. And the world doesn't know what that looks like.
Is there an example of when your gut is wrong or you should ignore your gut?
Oh yeah, I'm wrong a lot. I'm not perfect. I'm wrong a lot. Like sometimes, for example, I had a case recently where I'm like, why did we agree to represent this guy? He's nuts. I'm like, there is no way what he's telling me is true. This can't be true. It was so far-fetched, right? Like if you heard it, which I obviously can't disclose, you would be like, Alec, come on. Like, no, it's not even in the realm here. Turns out he's correct. He was 100% correct. Right. So I can be wrong. Like I can be, but and I'll never tell him I don't believe him, but I'm like crafting my responses carefully, to know exactly what I'm doing. And I think that's another thing. Like I usually believe my clients, or I don't take on their case, right? Like if I know, I'm like, you are flat out lying to me. It's hard because I'm like, listen, if you can't trust your lawyer, who are you going to trust?
Yeah. Totally. Well, we've loved having you on the Marquis Masters podcast. How have you benefited from the products and services of Marquis Who's Who?
Yeah, so Renee, I don't know her last name. I think it's Molino. She is so cool. She calls me all the time. She's awesome. She loves to check in on me. But you guys have been great. You pushed me through some serious media, which has gotten me some great attention. And I guess I just got a call prior to you actually logging on that my face will be in Times Square next Friday for a billboard you guys all created for me. So we thank you for that. And I love working with you guys. I really don't work with any other agency because of all the stuff you guys do for me.
Ali, this has been incredible. Everyone can learn more about your law practice at crouthamellaw.com. What's the best place for people to connect with you online?
Yeah, so for legal stuff, consults, all of those things would be exactly what you said, Ryan, crouthamellaw.com. For social media, everything is under I call it legally, get it? At law. That's everywhere. YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the things.
Ali, it's been incredible. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.